we'll try and get back through as many people as we can in the time that we got. And here is Coach Babers. Coach, we're going to start with a question from Matt Hausworth.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, Coach, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
All right, that's a good first step. Well, first and foremost, obviously, this was a very good recruiting cycle for you in this program. I guess tell me what stands out to you the most, when you look back at this class.
Well, I think back to, we got 11 offensive guys, 8 defensive guys, 5 on offense, 3 on defense, 5 O-linemen, 3 defensive linemen. And, we wanted to get bigger sized people. We got 15 of the 19 are 6'3" or bigger. Two of the top 5 New York signees, in the state of New York. And this is the second highest class that we've had ranked so far. When I think about my staff, I'm really proud about the job they did during a pandemic year. So much of this was done on Zoom and virtual tours. I want to say that we have, 4 guys that didn't make it to campus, 5 guys that have never met the coaches. I mean, there's a huge number of people operating on faith that really believe we're headed in the right direction, and they want to be a part of what we're doing. It's really, really exciting. And when you think about, because of the pandemic rule, that these 19 guys, these 19 freshmen, Matt, get to tie in with the 6 freshmen that were playing on defense at Notre Dame on the defensive side, along with the offensive kids that are playing on offense. And I really believe when this class combines, it'll be the best freshman class that Syracuse has had in a long time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Next we'll go to Ben Schulman.
Hey, Dino. 2 recent signings, both offensive linemen out of Hawaii. It's a very talked about position group. How do you think this class addressed the 5 guys up front?
Well, I think they did address it. I said when you look at them, these guys are big guys. When you watch them on tape, they can bend and they can really move. But the key is making sure we still have the physicality that we want. And we've got to work hard on getting that group, the O-line group, the D-line group, the entire football team, but really those big cats that make sure that they're as physical as they can be, because that's the key to the football game.
Next we'll go to Mike McAllister.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask you a geography type question. In past recruiting cycles, you guys have had 4, 5, 6 players signed from Florida. In this one, you only have 1 so far. Is that a product of the pandemic, or was that by design? I'm just curious about your thoughts there.
I think it's a little bit of both. I really do. I think with the pandemic, and there was no traveling, you had a lot more time to watch tape, a lot more time to build relationships with not only players but parents. And because of the pandemic situation, I think it allowed you to branch out a little bit further than maybe you normally did. The Florida thing, I think, was just a happening, but I'm proud about the footprint. The one thing that when you have the academics that Syracuse University has, it always allows you to become national, almost international. And when you think about our Canadians and our Germans, I guess we are international, so to speak. But the academics is so strong. That S carries. And everybody knows who Syracuse University is from an academic standpoint. So I think when the parents look at it and they break it down and they hit the internet and they start checking the majors, they realize that a degree from here really speaks. So I think that, more than maybe a lot of other things, allows us to branch out all across the United States.
Thanks, Coach. Next we'll go to Stephen Bailey.
Hey, Dino, I wanted to ask you about Justin Lamson specifically. I think on paper, a lot of people might see some similarities to Eric Dungy, West Coast guy, dual threat, willingness to be physical as a runner. When you first saw him, did you think of Eric at all? And as you've gotten to know him, what similarities and or differences do you kind of see in Justin?
I don't want to put that tag on him. So many times, these guys come in here and they have a tag of somebody previous, and I don't want to do that to this young man at all. I think he's a very, very good prospect. He comes from the same school as Ian Book, which I thought was kind of interesting because considering the type of game that he had against us in the last game. But one of the things that really jumps out to me is his leadership skills, and that he actually started playing high school football on defense. And the last quarterback that I had that did that was, the guy that plays for the 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo. He actually started as a linebacker in high school and then went to quarterback. So I like those guys that play both sides of the ball. I like those guys that have an edge to them, and there's no doubt that Justin fits those last two categories.
Just to follow up quickly, maybe from a mobility standpoint, what have you seen from him in that regard as a runner, and also someone who can extend plays, and with some of the protection issues you guys have had, what do you think that could maybe alleviate with you?
I think he's a very good athlete. I think he can extend plays, and I think that his legs are something that could be an advantage. I don't think he's overly fast. I think we've got faster quarterbacks right now on campus, but he does show a knack for being able to extend plays, and he's not leery of mixing it up with some of those defensive guys. Now, those are high school defensive guys, and they're not ACC defensive guys, so we'll see as he continues to grow, but there's some courage about him, there's no doubt.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks, Steven. Next, we go to Mark Larson.
Hey, Dino, you mentioned, one of the highest recruiting classes you've ever had, and considering the challenge of the pandemic, considering the 1-in-10 season, how do you account for that?
I think the biggest thing is recruiting is basically almost 2 years in the rear. When we had the 10-3 season, those kids were already recruited for the 10-3 season by the time the season was over. I think that this class is recruited off the last 2 seasons. So you add up the numbers, and you're 15-10, not counting this season, but the 15-10, the 10-3 with the 5-7 season before. And I think when they look at that, they see a team that's over 500, a team that looks like it's missing some parts, and if they can see themselves fitting into the missing parts, they think they're going to have an opportunity to be a good football team. So I think that has a lot to do with it, no doubt. And hopefully when we get this freshman class once again, with the freshman class that's on campus because of the pandemic rule, we're going to put together and have one of those freshman classes that hopefully everybody can remember.
Just real quick follow-up, was there anything that happened during the pandemic recruiting-wise that you learned, like a new thing, and you think you're going to use even when there is no pandemic? Yeah,
there's something called Zoom that I had to learn how to use. I thought that was really cool.
I mean, it's effective, obviously.
I think the biggest thing is that you got to spend a lot more time with the prospects and the parents. And being on a Zoom call and seeing the parents and the prospects right there together more than once, and see how they interacted with their mom and dad and how the mom and dad interacted with them, I think really gives you a window, a peek in the window, so to speak, on what type of person he is, not only around his elders, but how he's treated by his mom and dad, which I thought was really interesting.
Thanks, Mark. Next, we go to Dan Tort.
Hey, Dino, just when you came into Syracuse, I'll never forget the day on the court where you asked the fans to have faith, belief without evidence. Now going into year number 6, just what you can say about that statement, faith, belief without evidence, as you step forward and staying true to that first message that you gave to the fans. And then secondly, and a little bit different, just what you can say about running the ball and what Josh Huff brings to the team.
Well, let's just start with Josh first. First of all, Josh is that bigger back that I keep saying that we're trying to get our backs a little bigger, get a bigger back, get a bigger back. And we thought we had our big back last year, and Marlowe came in and told us that he really had a desire to play linebacker. And one thing I'm going to really do is if the kids really believe that's where they're going to be at, I'm definitely going to start them over there. And we moved Marlowe to defense, and he had a heck of a freshman year over there, and we're really excited that we did it, and we're excited that he's happy. But it still kind of leaves that big back thing open for Josh, and hopefully Josh can come in here and fill those roles. I like some bigger backs in short yardage situations. We've had some difficulties. And when you get that bigger back and kind of single block all those guys and tell them, okay, go get it, sometimes those Franco Harrises have a way of going and getting those tough yards where you may not be so easy to get with a smaller back. When it goes back to the belief without evidence, I think, people look at jobs and they go, oh, that's easy, I want that job. I always thought that I want to have a difficult job. And if this job was easy, anybody could do it, and there have been guys before me that could did it. There was good coaches before me. There were good head coaches before me, and they were here and they left, and they were here and they left. I want to get this place to where we can be consistent winners. And to do that, it's going to take some time. And I understand that time is limited, and that's okay. That's why I love my job, that it is limited time, and everyone can't do it. But this team, these guys, I think if we can keep moving at the pace that we're moving, that we're going to give everybody what everybody deserves and what everybody wants, and that's a consistent win in Syracuse.
Thanks, Dino. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Dan. Next, we go to Nico Tamurian.
Hey, Coach, appreciate your time as always.
Nico, you look cold. You look colder.
This is like the COVID sports office. There's not a lot of good heat down here, so I've got the hoodie on.
Okay.
Appreciate you noticing. I'll say this on social media, and people call me a homer. I don't care. It's what I see, that all the freshmen on defense, and you mentioned off the top, that's certainly a good sign for the future, it seems. And you throw in the guys from this class, and I want to specifically focus on the DBs, especially, Deuce Chestnut there. I mean, when you see the guys that contributed so young this year, and then you're adding in recruits of that caliber, or, Chestnut's caliber, plain and simple, how exciting is that?
It's very exciting. It's going to be a situation where guys have to compete. I think competition does nothing but make people better. Iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. The more competition you can breed at a position, the better that position is going to be, whether that's DB, whether that's quarterback, whether that's O-line, D-line, running backs, linebackers. We want it to get deep. We want it to get thick, so that if we ever have a situation where we have massive injuries like we had this year, that you can find a way to survive it without moving people around. So we're trying to build the numbers like I've always said, and I'm excited. I think we're really plugging some holes. If guys come in and do what we feel that we've evaluated that they can do, and we did a decent job last year with the evaluations, if we hit the way we hit last year, this year, I think everybody's going to be really excited about the base and foundation that we're giving this football team.
Appreciate it. If we don't see you, happy holidays, Coach.
Keep your jacket on.
I will.
Thanks, Nico. Next, we go to John Kikis.
Hey, Coach. Do you have any firm idea how many people are coming back next year and how many aren't?
I know some of the guys. I don't have a firm number since you asked me a direct question. The timetable's a little bit different. I wanted some of the guys I talked to, I said, hey, go ahead and take Christmas, have a fantastic Christmas, get back to me, sometime in December, sometime before the new year. So, and I know those young men, they'll get back to me. They've got some things that they're pondering. But we put all the cards on the table. They understand exactly where they're at. There's still some people I need to get a hold of as far as some other situations to make sure that they're either in, or if they're deciding to go somewhere else, I understand. But for the most part, I won't know till January. I really can't answer the question in great detail.
Thanks, Coach, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to you also.
Thanks, John. Next, we go to Adam Hillman from the Daily Orange.
Yeah, kind of on a similar plane as that question. We saw Kingsley and Aaron announced coming back. What type of boost those three seniors back, and especially on the defensive line, getting Kingsley and Josh back? What type of boost does that give you guys?
Okay. So I only heard half of it because you froze. But was it Kingsley and Josh Black and
Aaron? Yeah, getting them back for next year. Kind of on a similar level to the last question.
When you said Aaron, who's?
Surveys.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Here's the thing. I'm really excited that they want to hang around with me for one more year. I thought those guys were tired of me. I raised 4 daughters. As soon as they turn of age, they run across the country with a new job. They don't even want to hang in the house with me anymore. But it's really exciting that those guys are going to come back. They're going to give us an opportunity to allow some of those positions that they're at to grow up. These guys have some aspirations of going to the league, and I think that with some of them, they want to put a better foot forward than what they did last year. I think also as a team, being seniors, you don't want to go out with your last season as a non-winning season, and I think they want to come back and right some wrongs. And I'm excited that they're excited, and I'm ready to get to work. I've already been working, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that they come out on the plus side of this doggone thing next year, and we can't wait to get started.
Coach.
Thanks, Adam. Next, we'll go to Brent Axe.
Good afternoon, Coach. Considering the number of freshmen and younger players in general you had to put on the field this year, would you file that, to steal a term from you, was that a happening? Or are you rethinking maybe how you put young people on the field, particularly freshmen?
You know, it's not rethinking it. I think it's just a matter of some of this was definitely a happening. The injuries, the opt-outs, the weird, the situations that were going on, I think that had something to do with it. And then the flip side of that is some of these guys are really talented, and the best guy deserves to play no matter what. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be the best next year when some of these individuals are coming back, or someone develops and goes past them. But for them to have an opportunity to get their feet wet, to get on the field, to have 11 outings against ACC competition, or 10 outings versus ACC competition, and a very, very good non-conference team that wasn't ACC, I think that's going to only make them better. And it's going to sharpen them in the tooth. And with a really good offseason and a really good summer, I think that we can come back and be better than ever. And I'm looking forward to it. And I can't wait to get these guys back on the field, back in the weight rooms, to see what we can develop, to see how we're going to be.
And just a quick follow-up to that, Coach. I was wondering what you think just generally of the transfer portal and how that rule has changed and where we're at. I think there's something like over 200 players already there. And, I mean, it's just amazing to see how that has evolved. And I'm kind of wondering how you view it as a coach and this new thing you have to deal with.
It's just a different thing. So, I mean, I don't know if I have hard feelings on it. I think it's cool that a guy can play 4 or 5 years somewhere, get a degree, do his part, and then say, okay, I either want to stay here or I want to go somewhere else. And because they've stayed and they've got their degree, they have that option. And I think that's fair. There's things in life that are fair and things that are unfair. I look at it as being fair, and then whether they stay or go being their choice, for the most part, I think is a good thing.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Brent. Next, we'll go to Christian de Guzman.
Someone mentioned it earlier, but 2 of your offensive linemen that are now in the program are from Hawaii. Obviously, you have a lot of connections to that state, going to college there. How important is that you got those 2 guys from Hawaii, and how different of players are they in that state? Because obviously you know so much about playing there.
First of all, I think to be able to get somebody from that far away, it has to tie into your academics. Both of those young men are from very fine academic high schools. They're in the top 5 high schools on the islands, and they're very, very serious about their academics, especially when they send their young men away and they know that they're going to end up back there. Syracuse University and private school education helped us recruit those 2 young men. There's no doubt about it. Me having ties back there, other coaches having ties back there on the staff also helped, because they knew the transition would be an easy transition, because they can turn on most interviews. Heck, I've got my Aloha shirt on, regardless of whether it's 45 or 50 degrees on out here. So they'll feel comfortable, and they'll feel comfortable with the coaches, and they'll feel comfortable, with the surroundings, and they'll be able to handle the academics. Again, I think the pandemic has allowed us to watch more tape, spread out, cover more of the United States of America, along with international places for players. And this is just one of those years where it just worked out. I think over the course of time, and when the pandemic ends, I can't tell you that we'll constantly be out there as much as we ended up out there this year. But we will always follow the rule. We'll start close to home and try to find as many players as we can, whether those are offensive linemen or wide receivers or DBs. And as we spiral graph out, we'll continue to work until we feel like we got the type of students and athletes that can help us play, compete, and be successful in the ACC.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Christian. Next, we'll go to Danny Emmerman from the Daily Orange.
Hey, Dino, I want to ask you about how this college football season is ending. So you see teams like BC, Pitt, Virginia have these great seasons and then decline bowl game invitations, citing the mental toll of COVID-19 and how long the season has been. What is your reaction to that, and how do you think your team would have responded in a similar situation?
First of all, I think back to the 160 people we had tested, coaches, players, restaurant people, trainers, weight room, 3 times a week. And we went over 160, 170 days without a positive. One of 2 teams in the ACC that made the clean run without having one hiccup, one speed bump with COVID-19. And I thank the football team for the maturity on that, and I thank the coaches and everyone else as well. It was exhausting. Okay, this season was exhausting, and it's not just about the wins and the losses. It really was taxing to play game after game after game and not have your parents there, to play games and not have fans, and then be lucky enough to go somewhere to have fans boo you just to make it halfway seem normal. And I think the young men have really done their part. And unless you're playing for something extremely extraordinary, I would imagine that our guys would probably say, you know what, that might be nice, but you know what really would make me feel good? Going home and having mama's cooking right now. So I'm pretty sure that they probably would have followed what you see going on right now, that a lot of those guys would have said, I'll go home and see mama, and I'll see the bowl game next year.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Danny. Next, we'll go to Nate Mink.
Hey, Dino, I don't know if you can provide an exact number, but I'll ask. How many of these guys have you actually seen in person?
In person?
Yep.
Face to face.
Evaluation, playing or working out, not just the kid walking around campus.
You understand that we're in a COVID-19 that we can't roll up on anybody that hasn't been inside the bubble, right?
Yep.
Okay. So therefore, I'm going to not answer that question.
So you haven't seen these guys even junior year, for instance?
Oh, there's guys that you're talking about on tape or in person?
Like an in-person evaluating them in person on the football field, like watching them play live.
I would say less than a handful live.
So that's unusual, to say the least.
It's very unusual, and you have to be very comfortable with your evaluations, okay? Very comfortable with your evaluations. And I'll tell you the most difficult evaluation in that situation is always the quarterback. Quarterbacks you want to see live. And you have to go back to, you have to trust the tape. You have to trust people that you know and people that you contact, high school coaches and other high school coaches that maybe you have a better relationship with, that maybe got an opportunity to see these individuals on the field. Now, on the flip side of that, you're referring to me, and I only, normally when I'm going to see somebody, I'm going to see somebody as their senior year, playing their senior year, okay, or I'm going to see a junior playing on a team with a senior that I see as a junior, and you get an opportunity to see him 1 year early. Now, I have coaches on my staff. That's totally, if you ask that question, it's totally different. They're responsible for the recruiting area, whether it's a freshman, a sophomore, or a junior. So they definitely have seen these guys live. But when you ask the question to me, because I'm only allowed to go out at certain times because of NC2A rules, it really cuts the number down quickly. Okay?
Thanks, Nate. We got time for 2 more. We'll start with Stephen Bailey.
Hey, Dino. I think after a 1-win season, a lot of programs will be worried about how the next signing day might go. Seems like you guys lost someone who you can't talk about, but signed 19 guys today. What have the last few weeks been like in regard to being on the recruiting trail and trying to hold on to those guys? And do you think that would have been different in a different year where there wasn't a pandemic?
I think it's a great question. I think it's fair to answer. I think it would have been different if it wasn't a pandemic year. I think that's fair. I also think it's fair to say that I thought the staff did an unbelievable job, Stephen, and for them to be able to work through as many Zoom calls as we have, along with the extra guys that we have working our department that we haven't had before. We've got more people in the recruiting department than we've ever had. It obviously paid off. And the coaches, along with the recruiting department, was very organized. They were very detailed. And I want to think they were extremely thorough. Now, we won't be able to put the tire to the rubber to the road until we see them in August, hopefully. But I really feel good about what I see on tape. I really feel good about what I've heard from high school coaches and other coaches in the area about these young men. And, I'm not going to lose sleep over this one. I think we've got a really, really good batch.
Thanks, Stephen. For our last question, we'll go to Mark Larson.
Dino, I know coaches like yourself a lot of times will say, I don't care about the recruiting rankings, but it's the first thing fans want to see. And they look at Syracuse, and according to the rankings, you're somewhere around 12 in the ACC, but somewhere around 50 in the country. Will Syracuse, do you ever care if Syracuse has a top 25 class? Does that even come into your thinking?
Do I care? Yeah, I would love to be a top 25 class. That'd be awesome. That's anytime you're in the top 25 in anything, that's really good. I think that I just think about the one scenario. I just keep thinking about Super Bowls and how they have that thing where in this Super Bowl on both teams, this is how many 5 and 4 stars there are. Boom. And then they go, this is how many 1, 2, and 3 stars there are. And then you start realizing that, what's the word I'm looking for? Potential is a very interesting word in the dictionary where someone has the potential to be a 5-star or a 4-star. And then you turn around and you think about work ethic and development and want to. And that it thing that no one knows what it is, but they all wish they had it. And I think that's what really starts to come into play with the 3 and the 2 and the 1 stars. They missed their 4 and 5-star rating coming out. They have a huge chip on their shoulder, and they've got something to prove. And when young people get motivated and stimulated and they want to get something done because they feel like they're being cheated, they seem to put the energy in it to make it pay off in the end. So would I love to be in the top 25? Absolutely. That would mean that we're doing things right, I'd imagine, from a lot of people's opinion. But don't underestimate the little guy. I mean, sometimes when those guys don't feel like they're getting their share of the meat on the bone, that they have a nasty bite to them, and sometimes even a growl that's discernible.
Thank you, Dino. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to you.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, everybody. That ends today's press conference. Appreciate everybody taking the time with us today.